The crash that changed everything. The forest was quiet. Two quiet, thick purple trees stood tall, unmoving, as if holding their breath. Birds had stopped singing, and the wind had gone still. That's when the human man knew something was wrong. His name was Jace. He was a scavenger, walking alone through the alien jungle of planet Eroxon 9. He looked for crashed ships, old tech, or anything he could sell back on the station. It was never safe, but he needed credits to survive. Jace pushed through the leaves and followed the trail of broken branches. Smoke rose from the trees ahead, thin, black, and fresh. He pulled out his small scanner and checked the reading. The metal signature was strong, not old, and very strange. He moved carefully now. Hand on his sidearm, the crash site came into view. An escape pod, small and dented, had smashed into the ground and skidded across the dirt. Parts were still glowing hot, and one door hung open. Jace raised his weapon and stepped closer. "Anyone in there?" he called, his voice calm but firm. There was no answer. Only the soft crackling of burning leaves. Then he heard a soft whimper. Like a child trying not to cry. He lowered his weapon slightly and stepped inside the pod. At first, he saw nothing but smoke and blinking lights. Then, behind a broken seat, something moved. A small figure was curled up, shaking arms around her knees. She was no human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly in the dark. Her eyes were large and shining with tears. Thin tendrils of hair floated slightly, as if touched by invisible wind. She looked up at him, terrified, and whispered one word, "Papa." Jace froze. "What?" he asked, blinking in shock. The girl reached out a trembling hand. "Papa," she repeated. Softer this time. Jace didn't move. He wasn't a father. He had never even thought about having kids. And this was clearly not human, yet something in her eyes made him pause. Behind him, the forest suddenly groaned. A strange, low growl echoed between the trees. Jace turned quickly and saw shadows moving in the mist. He didn't have time to think. "Come on," he said, reaching into the pod. The girl stared at him for a moment, then crawled forward and clung to his arm. He lifted her easily. She was light, too light. She held tight to his jacket and buried her face in his shoulder. Jace ran, weaving through the trees as the growls grew louder. He didn't look back. He didn't need to know what was chasing them, only that it was getting closer. After 10 minutes, he found a cave hidden behind thick vines. He ducked inside and set the girl down gently. She sat quietly, still hugging her knees. Her breathing was fast, but she didn't cry. Jace peeked out, watching for movement. The forest was quiet again. But now he knew something dangerous was hunting. Maybe they wanted the girl. Maybe they wanted the pod. Either way, he had just stepped into something far bigger than a simple salvage run. He turned back to her. "Who are you?" he asked, kneeling down. She looked at him, confused. "No name?" she said softly. "What about your family?" he asked. She shook her head. "All gone." Jace sighed and rubbed his face. He should leave her. He should walk away and pretend he never saw her. But then, she did something unexpected. She pulled something from around her neck, a small, glowing crystal. She held it out to him with both hands. "Give to Papa," she said. The crystal pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Jace didn't understand, but he took it anyway. The moment his fingers touched it, a warm feeling rushed through him. Strange symbols flashed in his mind, too fast to read. And then it stopped. He stared at the crystal in his hand. What was this? Why did it react to him? And why did this alien girl call him Papa? He looked at her again. She was watching him closely, eyes full of hope. Like she had been waiting for him all along. "All right, kid," he said quietly. "Let's figure this out together." Outside, in the forest, red lights blinked through the mist. Something had picked up their trail again, but for now, They had a few hours. A man who had nothing. A girl who had no one. And a mystery that could change the galaxy. The cave was cold that night. A small fire crackled in the middle. Giving off a soft orange glow, Jace sat with his back against the wall, watching the alien girl sleep. She had curled up on an old blanket he carried in his pack, hugging that glowing crystal to her chest like a favorite toy. She looked peaceful now, but something about her wasn't right. Not just the glowing skin or her strange silver blood. It was the way she held that crystal as if it was her last piece of home. Jace still didn't know her name. She didn't remember it. Or maybe she couldn't say it in his language. He had started calling her Starlet. Because her eyes sparkled like stars whenever she smiled, she didn't seem to mind. He pulled out his old scanner. A small round device with a flickering screen. He placed the girl's crystal on the stone floor and aimed the scanner at it. The device buzzed softly, then beeped once. It showed alien symbols, scrolling fast, too fast. "What the hell are you?" Jace muttered. He tapped the scanner again, this time forcing a translation. After a moment, English words appeared on the screen, shaky and broken. Biocore signature detected. Species unknown. DNA encryption. Royal tier clearance. Priority. Asset level Omega. Warning, protected genetic code. Do not duplicate. Jace blinked at the screen. Royal tier, Omega level asset. He had no idea what that meant exactly, but it sounded bad or important, or both. He looked over at Starlet, still sleeping soundly. She had no idea. She was just a child alone, scared, lost in a world that didn't want her, and yet something inside her made her more valuable than anything he had ever seen. Jace turned off the scanner and picked up the crystal. It felt warm in his hand, almost like it was alive. Was it part of her? Was it keeping her alive? Or was it the reason she was being hunted? He placed it gently beside her and leaned back. Closing his eyes, he didn't sleep. Not really. His thoughts kept turning. Why did she call him Papa? Why did the crystal respond to his touch? And if someone knew she survived the crash, how long before they came back? By morning, Starlet was already awake. She sat quietly beside the fire, drawing in the dirt with a stick, when she saw Jace. Open his eyes, she smiled. "Good dream," she said. Jace nodded. "Good, hungry." She nodded again. He handed her a protein bar, and she nibbled at it carefully, then pointed at the scanner. "What's that?" she asked. Jace paused. "It tells me what things are made of, like your crystal." She tilted her head, curious. "It's from my home," Mama said. "Keep it safe, always." He stared at her for a second. "You remember your mom?" She shook her head, only a little. She ran. Fast. "With me," said people were coming. Bad people. Then boom, Jace felt something in his chest. Anger. Maybe sadness. This girl had lost everything. But she still smiled, still trusted him, and she had no clue what she was carrying. He decided not to tell her, at least not yet. Telling her she was a walking target wouldn't help. Instead, he said, "Your crystal is special. We should keep it hidden, okay?" Starlet nodded, as if she already knew. Then she stood and said, "I want to learn." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Learn what?" "Your words, your tools. So I help you, like you help me." He smiled. She was brave, maybe too brave, for the next few days. They moved carefully from one hiding place to the next. Starlet learned fast. She learned how to say words like fire, danger, water, and safe. She learned how to press buttons on his old scanner and how to listen for sound traps in the trees. And Jace, without realizing it, was changing too. He wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was teaching her, guiding her. He was becoming something he never expected: a father. One night while they camped near a dry riverbed, a message crackled through Jace's broken comms unit. A voice, robotic and sharp, repeated one phrase over and over: Omega signal located. Sector 9, Forest Grid 7. Retrieve the asset, eliminate resistance. Jace's blood turned cold. That was them. Whoever they were coming, and they knew where to look. He turned slowly. Starlet was looking up at him, crystal glowing faintly in her hand. She didn't know what was coming, but he did. He had one choice: now run again, or stand and fight. But one thing was clear: the girl wasn't just someone he found in a broken pod. She was his now, and he would protect her, no matter the cost. The wind was strange that morning. It blew from the east, sharp and dry, carrying a faint chemical smell. Jace noticed it first. He stood still, eyes scanning the treetops, nose twitching like an animal sensing danger. Starlet looked up from the rock she had been drawing on. "Something wrong?" she asked in her small voice. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he crouched down and pressed his hand to the dirt. Vibrations, not natural ones, steady, like machines walking on heavy legs. He stood up fast, eyes sharp. "Grab your pack. Now," he said. Starlet didn't question. She had learned that when Jace's voice got low and serious, it meant trouble. She grabbed the little bag she always carried and ran to his side. They moved through the trees quickly, Jace leading, Starlet close behind. He didn't head toward the nearest cave or hill. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, he took her toward the old ruins, a half-buried structure from some forgotten alien time. They hid inside a broken tower, covered in vines. Jace peeked out through a crack in the wall. Then he saw them. 3 tall figures in black armor, walking in a triangle shape. Their helmets had no faces, just glowing red lines across the front. Each one carried a long energy spear. Drones buzzed around them like angry wasps, scanning the ground and air. Jace pulled back, breathing slow. He whispered, "They found us. Stay quiet. Don't move unless I say." Starlet nodded and backed into the shadows, clutching her crystal. She was brave, but even brave kids get scared. The figures moved slowly, but they were closing in. One of the drones floated toward the ruin, light blinking. It stopped right in front of the tower wall, then beeped once, loud and sharp. They were discovered. Jace stood quickly, gun drawn. He didn't wait. He fired. The drone exploded in a flash of sparks. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing Starlet's hand. They dashed out the other side of the ruins as the soldiers turned and shouted something in a metallic language. Energy blasts tore through the air, hitting trees and rocks. Jace zigzagged, pulling Starlet with him. They ran until they reached a steep ridge, then slid down, dirt and rocks flying everywhere. At the bottom, Jace rolled to his feet and pulled Starlet behind a fallen log. He peeked up and saw 2 of the soldiers already jumping down the hill. They were fast, too fast. Jace pulled out a small sphere from his pack, twisted it, and tossed it into the air. It exploded in a flash of white light and thick smoke. Then, he grabbed Starlet and ran again, deeper into the woods, but they didn't get far. One of the soldiers landed in front of them, weapon aimed. Jace stopped, shielding Starlet behind him, gun shaking in his hand. The soldier took a step forward, voice cold and calm. "Give us the child. Human. Do that, and we won't kill you." Starlet peeked out from behind Jace and whispered, "Don't leave me." Jace didn't move. His heart pounded, his muscles tense. Then something strange happened. Starlet stepped forward, eyes glowing bright. Her crystal floated up from her bag and hovered in the air. The soldiers paused, confused. She said one word, an alien word, but it carried power. The air shook, the crystal flashed with energy, and one of the soldiers was thrown back into a tree. Jace grabbed her hand, surprised but ready. "Let's go," he said. They ran again, dodging shots, diving through roots and vines, Finally, they reached a canyon and leaped across a narrow ledge. Behind them, a blast hit the ground, causing rocks to fall. Sealing the path, Jace collapsed behind a boulder. Breathing hard, Starlet sat beside him, silent, crystal. Dim again, after a long pause, he said, "Where did you learn to do that?" She looked down. "I don't know. It just happened. When he tried to take me," Jace nodded slowly. "She didn't know the power she carried, not yet. But others did. And they would come again, stronger, faster, and with more fire." He looked at her, dirty, scared, but still calm. "Next time. I'm not letting them get that close," he said. Starlet leaned her head on his shoulder. "You didn't leave me," she whispered. He stared at the dark trees ahead. "No, kid, I never will." And as the sun began to set, casting blood-red light across the horizon, Jace knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a mission to protect a strange alien girl anymore. This was family now. And he would burn down the stars before letting anyone take her away. It began with a dream. But it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like falling fast, cold, and endless. Starlet's small hands reached out in the dark, and a voice called her name. Not Jace's voice. Someone else. Softer, higher. A woman. She saw flashes. White halls, red lights, alarms blaring, a silver door slamming shut, and someone screaming. When Starlet opened her eyes, the cave was still. Dark Jace slept nearby, his arm across his pack, blaster close to his hand. The fire had died down to glowing embers. She sat up slowly, shaking, one hand pressed to her forehead. Who was that?" she whispered. She looked at her crystal, now glowing gently in the silence. It pulsed once, as if answering her. She touched it, and a light image flickered in the air, brief and broken. A tall alien woman holding Starlet's hand, guiding her. Through a lab, the woman whispered something. "Run if they come. Find the human." Then the image vanished. Starlet gasped. She didn't remember that before. Why now? Why tonight? Jace stirred, eyes opening instantly. He never truly slept anymore. He sat up and looked at her. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. She nodded slowly. But her eyes were wide. "I saw her, my mother." Jace froze. "You remember?" "Not all, just pieces. But she told me to find the human." She looked at him. "You." Jace frowned. "That doesn't make sense. How could she know about me?" "I don't know," Starlet whispered. "But she said you would protect me." Jace stood and walked toward the cave entrance, thinking if what she said was true, then someone had planned this, had sent Starlet across space not just to survive, but to find him, specifically him. But why him? He wasn't special, just a scavenger, a nobody. He turned back. "Starlet, can you show me again?" She touched her crystal, but nothing happened this time. "It's gone," she said. "Disappointed only shows once, I think." Jace nodded. Still, the message was clear. They needed answers. By morning, they had left the cave and headed toward the old relay station. It was abandoned years ago, but the data core inside might still work. Jace thought maybe it could read her crystal better than his junk tools. They walked for hours through thick forest and quiet canyons. Every shadow made Jace reach for his weapon. Every strange noise made Starlet glance behind her, but they weren't followed at least not yet. Finally, the relay station came into view, a tall metal tower half buried in vines, its top broken off. Jace led her inside carefully. Flashlights sweeping across dusty walls and spider-like cables. "This place gives me chills," Starlet whispered. "Good, means nobody's been here in a while," Jace replied. They found the core room and wiped dust off the main console. Jace connected her crystal, and the screen flickered to life. Data scrolled fast, too fast to read. But then, A voice spoke, not from the screen, but from the crystal itself, if you're hearing. This, it means she made it. This is Dr. Elion Project Genesis. The girl is not just a child. She is our future. Jace and Starlet both stared at the crystal. Eyes wide, the voice continued, broken by static. Her DNA carries the cure code written by the ancients. She's the only one who can unlock it. But if they find her, they'll use her or destroy her. The voice cracked again. Protect her, human. She will trust you. Because we chose you, then silence. Starlet's hands shook. I'm the cure. Jace reached over and gently held her shoulders. Looks like it, and now I know why they're chasing you. But I don't want to be a cure, she said, tears filling her eyes. I just want to be a girl. I know, Jace whispered, but now we know the truth, and that means we can stop running, we start planning. They left the tower quickly, afraid more signals had been sent when the core activated. By sunset, they were hiding in an old drainage pipe beneath a dried-out lake bed. Starlet lay beside him, quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Do you think my mom is still alive?" Jace didn't lie. "I don't know, but I think she gave everything to save you. And now I will too." Starlet closed her eyes, holding his arm. "You're not just a human. You're my human." Jace looked up at the stars, starting to peek. Through the sky, something inside him had changed again. He wasn't running just for survival anymore. He was running for her future. And maybe for the galaxy too. And he would never stop. Not until she was safe. Not until the people who wanted her gone were the ones running instead. Asterisk. The cave walls glowed faint blue. Not from the fire, not from the moonlight, but from the crystal. It hovered in the air above Starlet's palm, spinning slowly. Jace watched in silence, eyes wide, hand resting on his blaster. He had seen strange tech before, but nothing like this. The crystal had started acting strange right after sunset. One moment, it was quiet, cold, normal. The next, it lit up like a star and began to hum. Starlet stared at it, mouth slightly open. "I didn't touch it," she said. "It just woke up." Jace nodded slowly. "Maybe it's reacting to something. A signal, maybe." Then, the air around the crystal shimmered, and a hologram appeared. A tall alien figure stood in the light blue skin. Long coat, tired eyes. He looked like a scientist. He began speaking in a soft voice, calm but urgent. "This is Dr. Elion of the Genesis Project. If you are seeing this, the final phase has begun." Jace and Starlet leaned closer. The image flickered but stayed strong. "The girl you carry is not just a child. She is the last vessel of a forgotten cure. Inside her DNA is a map, not two. A place but to life." Starlet's eyes widened. "What does that mean?" Jace shook his head. "Let's listen. Her body holds information lost for centuries, information created by the ancients, a cure for the rot. A sickness spreading across stars. She does not know this, and must not until the time is right." Jace clenched his jaw. The rot. He had heard that name before. A slow, quiet sickness eating away at whole planets. No cure, no warning, only death. The voice continued. "There are those who want to use her, break her. They believe they can. Copy the code. They are wrong. The code is alive, and it chooses who can unlock it," Jace whispered. "You're the key, Starlet." She looked up at him. "Why me?" Before he could answer, the voice changed. Sharper now. A warning. "To the human who finds this message, protect her. Not because she's special, but because she's alone. If she chooses you, you are her shield. And you may be the only one strong enough to carry her through what's coming." Then the image faded. The crystal dropped gently back into her hands. Cold and still again. The cave fell into silence. Only the crackle of the fire remained. Jace Sat down slowly, rubbing his face. That message changed everything. She wasn't just carrying a secret. She was the secret. Starlet looked at him, confused but calm. Do I have something bad inside me? He shook his head. No, not bad. You have something powerful, something others would kill for. She went quiet, then said, I don't want to be powerful. I just want to be. Jace gave a tired smile. You still are, but now we know. Why they keep coming. They sat quietly for a long time. Then Starlet whispered, if I have a cure. Does that mean I can help people? Jace nodded. Maybe, someday, when it's safe. The next morning, they packed quickly and left the cave. Jace knew the message might have sent out a signal. Someone, somewhere, could have been listening. They moved north, toward an old human research post deep in the mountains. Jace remembered it from his old army days, quiet, forgotten, but still standing, if they could reach it. Maybe they could send a message, a warning, or a call for help. But the journey wasn't easy. The roads were broken, and the forest grew darker. Strange plants reached from the trees, and animals watched from the shadows. One night, while they camped near a fallen ship husk, Jace looked at the stars and said, You know, I used to think I was done, no family, no future, just me and Scrap. Starlet lay beside him, wrapped in a warm cloth. But now? She asked. He smiled. Now I've got a reason to fight again. She reached over and placed the crystal in his hand. It pulsed once warm, familiar. Then she said something she had never said before. Good night, Dad. Jace didn't answer right away. His throat tightened, heart heavy with something he hadn't felt in years. Finally, he whispered, Good night, kid. And as they slept beneath the broken sky, the crystal glowed quietly in his hand. A silent message still waiting to be heard. And the weight of a future still being written. Asterisk, the storm came fast. Winds howled across the mountain pass, and lightning flashed like angry claws across the sky. The old shuttle shook under the force of the wind. Metal panels groaned, dust poured. In through broken seams, Jace tightened the harness around Starlet's seat. Hold on tight, he said, voice shaking. The shuttle controls flickered, alarms blaring red. They were falling. Below them, the planet's surface looked like teeth sharp. Rocky ridges and deep cracks. The research outpost had been just a few clicks away. Now it might as well be on another planet. Starlet reached for his hand. I'm not scared, she said. But Jace could see the truth in her eyes. She was terrified, but brave. He looked at the emergency pod near the back of the shuttle. It was small, just big enough for one, maybe two, if they were lucky. But he already knew, only one of them was. Making it out of this crash in one piece, Jace pulled her close and whispered, Listen to me, Starlet, if this goes bad, and I mean really bad, I need you to climb into that pod and launch. No arguing, no crying, just do it. She shook her head fast. No, I'm staying with you. He smiled. But it hurt. You're stronger than me, kid. You've got a future. I've had mine. Another blast of wind slammed into the shuttle. A warning light blinked. Red engine 1, offline. They were going down, fast. Jace locked the controls and stood, grabbing her shoulders. This isn't goodbye. This is trust. You trust me, right? Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. I trust you, Dad. He lifted her up and placed her gently into the pod. She tried to speak, but the door hissed shut. He saw her hand press against the glass, saw her lips say, Please. Then he hit the launch button. The pod ejected like a bullet, vanishing into the storm. Seconds later, the shuttle crashed. Everything turned white, then black, then nothing. Starlet woke to silence. The pod door had opened sometime during the night. Ash and snow blew across the rocky ledge where the pod had landed. She crawled out, legs shaky, heart racing. The sky was quiet now. No sound of fire, No falling ships. No voice calling her name. Dad? She shouted. No answer. She stumbled through the canyon, calling again and again. Then she saw the smoke. Half buried in broken rock and twisted metal was what was left of the shuttle. And there, just outside the wreckage, was Jace, barely breathing. Covered in cuts and dust, she ran to him, tears streaming. He opened one eye and smiled weakly. Told you. I'd stick around. Starlet pulled his head into her lap. You're alive. Barely, he said, coughing, ribs broken, leg busted. But I've had worse. No, you haven't. She whispered. For hours. She stayed beside him. She used every trick he had taught her: first aid spray, pain patches, fire-starting gel. She kept him warm, kept him awake. And when he started to fade, she told him stories, simple ones, about stars, about forests, about what they would do after the bad people stopped chasing them, about having a real home someday. Jace listened, drifting in and out, each time he woke. He smiled. Each time he spoke, it was a little softer. You saved me, kid. He whispered. Starlet nodded, holding his hand tight. Just like you saved me. By morning, a rescue ship arrived. A signal had been picked up from the crystal. Starlet didn't remember turning it on. Maybe it did it on its own. 3 humans stepped out of the ship, scientists, armed and cautious. They took one look at Jace and ran to help. Starlet stood between them and the crystal, ready to protect it. But one of the scientists knelt and said, You must be the girl. We've been waiting a long time to find you. She looked back at Jace, who gave her a tired nod. It's okay. Let's see what they want. They carried him onto the ship. Wrapped in blankets and pain meds, Starlet sat beside him. Holding the crystal in her lap, the sky above them cleared as they flew north toward the human base. The danger wasn't over, but they had survived the worst, together, and now, the final truth was close. The doors of the base opened with a hiss. Clean white halls stretched ahead. Filled with quiet footsteps and blinking lights, Starlet held Jace's hand as they walked slowly. His leg was in a brace, ribs taped, but he refused to stay in the medbay. I'm walking in with you, he said, voice firm. No one's taking you in alone. She didn't argue. Not anymore. Jace wasn't just her protector now. He was her home, her voice, her shield. Ahead of them stood a long room with a glass ceiling. Beyond the glass stars, they walked into the chamber together, where important-looking people sat in silence. Human generals, scientists, commanders, all watching her. One of them stood, a tall woman in a gray coat. Her eyes were sharp, but not cruel. Welcome, she said. You are the child from Project Genesis. Starlet looked up at Jace. He gave her a small nod. She stepped forward alone, holding her crystal. Then she said something no one expected. I'm not a project, she said, voice calm. I'm a person. And this man is my father. The room stayed silent. Some people glanced at each other, confused or surprised. Others typed notes. But no one interrupted her. She held up the crystal. This has answers. But it's not for war, not for power. She took a deep breath. My mother told me to run. She said the human who found me would protect me. And she was right. Jace stepped beside her now, his voice steady. She's not your weapon. She's not your tool. She's my daughter. The silence cracked. The woman in gray finally spoke again. And what do you want, Starlet? Everyone leaned in, waiting. Starlet didn't hesitate. I want to be safe. I want to be free. And maybe one day, I want to help people. But on my terms. She paused, eyes glowing softly. I have something inside me. I know that now, but I also know I'm more than that. The woman nodded slowly. Very well. Then we will protect you. No experiments. No cages. Only care. Jace raised an eyebrow. And if someone else comes for her, we'll fight beside you, the woman said. Because if what's inside her is real, it's hope. Later that night, they sat on the roof of the base. Jace leaned back in his chair. Wrapped in a thermal blanket, Starlet sat beside him, eating warm food from a tray. "Did I do good?" she asked. He smiled. "You did perfect. You spoke like a leader." She tilted her head. "Do you think I'll have to lead people someday?" "Maybe," he said, "but not yet. Right now you get to be a kid." She looked up at the stars. "So many lights," she whispered. "So many places." Jace followed her gaze. "Someday we'll visit them. All of them. Together?" she asked. He looked at her and nodded. Always, suddenly, her crystal pulsed in her jacket. Not glowing, just warm, like a heartbeat. She took it out, held it in her palm. It didn't speak, didn't flash, but it felt alive, like it was. Resting now, finally safe, Jace leaned his head back. "Eyes closing, you know," he said. "When I found you in that pod, I thought you were a problem," she giggled. "I was." "No," he said, laughing softly. "You were a gift I didn't know I needed." She leaned against him. "I think I was lost, but now I'm not." "No," he said, voice low. "Now you're found." And so they sat there. A broken man and a strange glowing girl. No longer just a scavenger and a survivor, but a father and daughter. The stars above them didn't blink. But maybe, just maybe, they watched. And somewhere out there, across the cold and dark of space, hope flickered again, because a little alien girl wasn't alone anymore. She had chosen her family, and he had chosen her right back.